Hi, everyone. We are the interns, and welcome to the Mongodb podcast.
Welcome to the show. On today's episode, the interns. You're going to hear from some MongoDB internship program participants. These are folks that are gaining access to real-world problem scenarios, working on the product itself, working on the documentation, on the training curriculum in MongoDB University, and as a part of the developer advocacy team. This episode was completely written, produced, and edited by interns. I hope you enjoy this episode.
You're listening to the MongoDB podcast. MongoDB podcast? Exploring the world of software development, data, and all things MongoDB. And now your hosts, Michael Lynn and Nick Raboy.
My name is Anaya Raisingani, and I am a developer advocacy intern here at MongoDB. You guys are in for a very special episode today. I'm super excited to introduce a couple other interns from the developer advocacy team and the software engineering team, Devin O'Keefe, Kelly Rudder, and Sylvia Cruz Albrecht.
Hi, I'm Devin O'Keefe, and I'm a rising junior at Trinity College Dublin, where I'm majoring in computer science. This summer, I'm working for MongoDB as a developer advocate intern.
Hi, I'm Kelly Rudder. I'm a rising senior at Yale University, where I'm studying computer science. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, but this summer I'm in New York City working on the curriculum engineering team as a software engineering intern.
And my name is Sylvia, and I'm also a software engineering intern on the curriculum team. And I study computer science at Harvard, but I'm actually just coming off of a gap year, so I'll be heading back to school in the fall as a sophomore. And I'm originally from California, and I'm also here in New York for the summer.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I'm super excited about this. So, Devin, I just wanted to ask, can you go a little bit in depth about your role and your team and what you do here at MongoDB for those who might not know what a developer advocate is?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm working as a developer advocate on the Realm team. So basically, MongoDB Realm is one of the offerings which MongoDB has for a mobile database. So I've been working with the people on that team on different projects using MongoDB Realm. And then also the other part of the developer advocate's job is to produce content such as blog posts, Twitch streams, stuff like that, just explaining what they're doing and getting word of it out into the audience. That's what I've been working on. Obviously, developer advocate role has changed a lot during COVID. So right now it's mostly stuff virtual such as Twitch streams, blog posts, and stuff like that.
Sylvia, bouncing to you now. Would you like to tell everyone more about what a software engineer at MongoDB does and what your day-to-day looks like as an intern?
For sure. So we are software engineer interns on the curriculum team. And so to give a bit of background on our team, the curriculum team is within the education org, and it develops courses that we host for free on MongoDB University. So as SWE interns, we're working on the technical part of these courses, and our project specifically is focusing on revamping a course on drivers. So day to day, Kelly and I are working on building an app that learners will go through and build during one of these courses. And our day-to-day also consists of meeting with our team members, doing a lot of planning, reviewing each other's code, and then of course the coding aspect of the app itself.
Do you find yourself utilizing a lot of your background from school in your current role?
Yes, I definitely find that I use my CS background in my current role. So as I mentioned, I took a gap year this past year, and it's been an opportunity for me to sort of take the academic CS part that I've learned at Harvard so far and really apply it in industry. I've really enjoyed transitioning from learning CS from a more theoretical standpoint at Harvard to actually building applications and being part of teams. So there's definitely slight differences between studying CS and working on a team, collaborating on code. But I found that a lot of the problem-solving skills specifically that you do, and things like searching through Stack Overflow and also learning how to teach yourself things, has been a really big part of what I've taken from my classes and applied into this internship.
So Devin, it's a little different for you where computer science has a direct feeder into software engineering. Would you like to share about how your background has fed into your role as a developer advocacy intern?
Obviously, there's two parts to developer advocate role. One is obviously working with technology, but the other is working with the audience, working with ultimately the consumers of MongoDB. So it's almost like the cross point between those two groups. So obviously, for example, I'm working on a project with MongoDB Realm, so that's where the computer science side would come into it. But then also I've got a background in doing different writing online, writing various articles. So that's also been very useful in terms of writing blog posts, producing content on different projects and on different aspects of MongoDB Realm.
Very cool. Thank you for that. So how did you find out about MongoDB?
So I previously worked with relational databases like MySQL and SQLite, and I'd always used very traditional architectures like that and like a LAMP stack for web development. Then during a college group project, I was actually introduced to the idea of NoSQL and MongoDB, and so it was really interesting, this new way of storing it with a lot more flexibility. So I was really intrigued, and I was really interested by the whole idea and underpinnings of MongoDB.
What about you, Sylvia? How did you hear about MongoDB?
Yeah, so similar to Devin, I worked with relational databases in school, working with SQL queries and such, but I actually hadn't had direct experience with NoSQL databases. And so I heard about MongoDB really through researching for tech internships. And so in this way, I think the MongoDB's emphasis on their internship program has a really big reach. And so that's sort of how I first found out about the company. And through the interview process, through the recruiting process, I continued to learn more about sort of the document model and definitely found that really interesting from a technical standpoint.
So obviously you applied to many different companies when thinking about a computer science internship for this summer. Is there a specific reason you'd like to share on why you decided on MongoDB for this summer?
Yeah, so for me, I wanted to work for more technical companies starting out. I initially was applying to a really wide range of companies, cast a pretty wide net. I was looking at fintech and startups and various tech companies. For me, what really stood out about MongoDB was that it's a company that's on the cutting edge of like database innovations and tech in general, and people here are really passionate about tech. So for me, I think it was really appealing as an environment to really expose myself to what's out there and get experience in industry. And as I mentioned, the internship program also really stood out to me. Compared to other companies, I think Mongo really emphasized the responsibility that interns are given here and also the large cohort of the intern class. So in previous years, we had like upwards of 70 interns, and this year we have over 100 interns. So having that community of other interns working alongside was definitely another factor of why I chose Mongo.
That's great. Thank you for that. Can both you and Devin go a little bit into detail about what your interview process was like while you were recruiting for MongoDB?
Yep. So at the very start, I had a phone call with some members of the campus recruiting team, and they informed me about the role, asked me about my background, and we just had a brief conversation. Then I sent on some examples of my writing and various articles which I've written in the past. And then I had an initial phone interview with certain members of the Realm Developer Advocate team, and that then went on to a Zoom call with two members of the Realm Developer Advocacy team, where I gave a technical presentation, and I actually built a kind of project on building a game-playing AI for Senate, an ancient Egyptian board game, and I showed that off, the process behind how I made it, some history of the game, and after that I was extended an offer.
And I can speak to the more software engineering process that Kelly and I went through. So for us, we also had an initial recruiter call. My recruiter was Natalie, and so we had like a 30-minute, 1-hour phone call. And then the second stage of the process was a third-party coding challenge hosted through Carrot. And once I got through that technical screen, I was moved on to a virtual on site. And so this was a 3-hour back-to-back technical interview with 3 different engineers at the company. And so I was able to meet various engineers from like senior engineers to new grads. And it was very collaborative. We were working on coding problems and also discussed sort of my technical experience and why I wanted to work at Mongo.
That's great. Thank you for that. So you said that you guys went through a virtual on-site. How is it like working in the office now, since both you and Kelly are in the New York office?
Yeah, so being in the office has been really fun. I would say the first few weeks it was mostly interns, and now a lot of full timers have started coming in. So it definitely feels a lot more alive. And it's been really nice also being in New York. It almost feels a little bit like a taste of what working post college could look like. So just commuting to work, being in the office, going out to lunch with coworkers, that whole kind of day to day has been really fun. And I think it's been helpful for seeing whether this is kind of a company that I can see myself at long term as well.
Yeah, echoing Sylvia's sentiments, I've loved being in the office. It's so nice just meeting people in person. I think one 10-minute conversation in person makes much more of an impact sometimes than many calls over an extended period of time over Zoom, as we all have kind of seen in this last year. But it's also just been great being able to eat lunch with other interns, have those conversations when you're taking a water break. And the office is just incredible. It has amazing views of New York City, amazing snacks, and the campus team is doing a great job of making us feel included in everything.
I hope you're enjoying today's episode, which, by the way, was entirely written, produced, and edited by some of MongoDB's 2021 summer interns. Our intern program allows students the opportunity to collaborate with full-time engineers, doing work that truly matters. We're seeking curious minds to help us build the most modern and productive database platform, and our application process for Summer 22 internships will kick off in September. If you're in the process of receiving a bachelor's or master's degree in computer science, computer engineering, or a related field, and want to learn more about internship opportunities at MongoDB, please visit mongodb.link/interns2022. That's mongodb.link/interns2022. Back to the show.
I will say I do think that MongoDB has done a really good job of making sure that remote interns feel included, especially since this is still sort of a hybrid summer. So I'm curious, Anaya and Devin, what your experience has been like doing the internship remotely.
Yeah, so obviously the campus recruiting team has done a great job of organizing a large number of events which people remotely can take part in too. So, for example, we had a virtual escape room where on a Zoom call, remote interns in Europe, where remote EMEA interns collaborated in a virtual escape room where we had to figure out puzzles to try and get out of the virtual escape room. There was also a remote chocolate making class, and we've got trivia nights coming up and various other events. And there's also been different engineering roundtables and speaker series where we've been able to ask questions of various people in MongoDB. That's been really interesting.
Yeah, and just working remote has been fantastic. MongoDB has set us up really well. They sent me this great microphone. Whenever I have a question with anyone from my team, it's super easy to just Slack them. Even I have had support from people outside of my team as well. So the campus team has just made me feel really included and supported as an intern here, which has been phenomenal. So it's been a great experience working remotely, although I would have loved to have been in the New York office. So hopefully one day I'll get to experience that. Another really great way that the campus team and the employees here at MongoDB make us feel included is by allowing us to join these groups called affinity groups. And I'm a part of an affinity group called UGT, and I know both you, Sylvia, and Kelly are also a part of it. Would you guys like to speak a little bit on your experience through that so far?
Yeah, so UGT stands for Underrepresented Gender Minorities in Tech. So it's been an amazing opportunity to receive additional mentorship. So we all have a mentor, and they also have a series of events for us throughout the summer where we're able to meet other interns, other mentors, and also just gain some professional advice and guidance. I know my UGT mentor has been excellent in making me feel included, and although she's in a completely different team than me and a completely different time zone as well, we've been able to connect with so many things. I'm actually cooking for the first time by myself this summer, so she's been sharing lots of recipes for me, but also providing me some technical help on the side when I have questions because she's a team lead for her team. And I know Sylvia has some experiences with affinity group queries as well. Sylvia.
Yeah. So I'm also part of the queries group, and similar to UGT, we get matched with a mentor. So it's been really nice having someone who I can relate to, and just having that group and connect with more people outside of my immediate team. And in queries, we also have social events where we'll all get together and talk. And similar to how Kelly mentioned, it's nice to also have discussions that aren't necessarily related to work and just have that feeling of community, other people in the company.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sylvia. I'm a part of UGT too, and it's been a fantastic experience. I actually got to meet my mentor for lunch a couple weeks ago because she grew up in the same area as me. So that was really fantastic, meeting her face to face and seeing someone from the company. That leads me to my next question. What has been your favorite part of working at MongoDB so far, and what has been the hardest part about working here?
I'd say probably my favorite part of working on MongoDB has been the the amount of different areas of work which I've been doing. So, for example, obviously I've been working on various technical aspects of MongoDB, working with MongoDB Realm, working with Atlas, working with the actual technical parts of the software. But at the same time, I'm also working on stuff like this, the podcast, learning about editing, being present at various interviews during the podcast. So it's been really interesting to get a vast variety of flavors of the different work which goes on in MongoDB instead of working on one specific topic. That's probably been my favorite part of working MongoDB. In terms of the hardest part of working at MongoDB during this internship, I'd say possibly communicating when we're working remotely and trying to make sure that if I've got a question, I can't just walk over to someone's table like I could if I was working in the office. But instead, obviously, you've just got to be proactive about asking people on Slack, scheduling a video call, a Zoom call with someone on Google Calendar, just stuff like that.
Yeah, for me, my favorite part of this internship has definitely been meeting all the people at MongoDB, especially the current full-time employees. Everyone at MongoDB is just so accessible. And as I mentioned before, I'm entering my senior year, so really looking to get a bunch of career advice. And everyone is just so willing to tell their story and give advice, and also just help Sylvia and I with our project when needed. Sometimes we need resources outside our team, and everyone's always willing to talk with us. And even as you go higher up in the organization, people are always willing to send you a message on Slack and answer questions. As we mentioned earlier, we have a speaker series. So the C-level suite has been talking to us, and they've all, at the end of every conversation, they've said, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to Slack us, which is just so incredible to be a part of an organization that welcomes all of us like that. In terms of the most difficult part, I'd say probably just being able to narrow down the scope of intern projects and being able to stay on track. This internship's only 11 weeks for myself. Sylvia, who's my co-intern, it's only 12 weeks for her. And we're working on an entire full stack application. So sometimes it can be hard to, keep our sights on the final product. But just being able to work with our team and work with our mentor has been great as they help us stay on track and make sure we don't get too lost in the clouds with that.
Yeah, and for me, I definitely echo that I've really enjoyed meeting other interns and full-time engineers. That's been a big highlight of this internship for me. In the spring, I was doing a remote tech internship, and while I did really enjoy my team, I found that at the end of the internship, I was way less connected than I am being in person here. So this has been really incredible for me. I would also say I really appreciate the responsibility that we're given on our intern projects. So what we're working on this summer are projects that full-time engineers would be doing if we weren't here. And so Kelly and I have really had a lot of flexibility in building out our application for our project. And I can give a bit more background on what we're working on. So our project is really focused on revamping one of the courses in the 220 series on drivers. And Kelly and I are building out a full stack web application that learners will build throughout that course. So it's a really fun project. We're making a housing rental application using real data sets pulled from Airbnb that are stored in Atlas clusters. And we're implementing CRUD operations, so create, read, update, and delete functions so that you can search through listings and make an account and other features like that. And when Kelly and I came into the team, the idea for this project was still in flux in its ideation phase. So we've had a lot of ownership in fleshing out the design and the planning and then seeing through the technical implementation of it. And so I'd say in terms of one of the hardest aspects of this internship for us has also been very much tied to at least my favorite part. So I think dealing with ambiguity and being responsible for the project management side of things as an engineer is something that I think can be really tricky. And it's an important skill to have as an engineer. But things like splitting up features into tickets and delegating tasks and also estimating timelines, things like that have been a challenge for this project.
That's fantastic. That sounds like such a fun project to spend your entire internship working on. It sounds like you're going to have a lot of skills at the end of this summer that you're going to be able to use later in your career. Which of the skills that you've learned during your internship do you think will benefit you the most later on in life?
Yeah, obviously, I guess I've gained various technical skills. So, for example, I've started to, for the first time, I've started to develop with Xcode and Swift UI. I've learned more about Atlas, about Realm, and lots of different technical skills. But the one takeaway in terms of skills which has been most important for me is probably learning the correct best practices in terms of operating in a big company, how to develop with others, seeing how, for example, MongoDB uses Okta, seeing how people collaborate in Slack, seeing how people schedule meetings with others in Google Calendar to make sure that you can easily find a good time to talk with anyone else, to make sure that people are generally very accessible, which is something MongoDB does very well, I think. So that's probably been the biggest takeaway which I've had from the internship, and which I'll bring the most into my future.
Yeah, I would definitely agree on that. I think it's one of the things that makes interning very different from being in school, where you're just sort of responsible for yourself. So I think being here, one of the biggest skills that I've been working on is working on a team and collaborating, similar to what Devin said. And like I also mentioned, the product management side of things and working with tools like Jira and collaborating through GitHub, I think those are all tools that are really essential to your day-to-day as a software engineer, but they're things that you don't necessarily learn through your classes. So I think alongside like the web development skills that I'm learning through my project, I would say the team collaboration is definitely a big one.
Yeah, for me, I think it's a lot of the independence aspect that MongoDB encourages with their interns. In internships I've had in the past, it's been a little more hand-holding through the project where people kind of lead you to answers and tell you where to go with things. But we've been giving a lot more independence with this internship, and I think that's something MongoDB really encourages, is they want us to feel like full-time employees. So being able to learn how to be independent, how to track down answers, but still having that safety net of a team and a mentor and everyone who just wants to see you succeed, I think has been incredible. And I'm definitely going to take that with me in my career as I move into the software engineer position, thinking about how to utilize those skills in a way where I can be independent on my team and be able to make my own decisions, but also being able to rely on people whenever I need help and not being afraid to ask for help.
That's fantastic. Thank you guys so much for coming out today and for appearing on our podcast. We really appreciate it. This has been great. So Devin, Sylvia, and Kelly, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. That was great. If anyone wants to reach out, I'm on LinkedIn at Devin O'Keefe and also on GitHub with the username Devin J. O'Keefe.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us on the podcast. This was a lot of fun. If you want to follow me, you can find me on LinkedIn at Sylvia Cruz Albrecht, and you can also check out projects that I've been working on my GitHub, and my username there is Sylvia-CS.
Thanks for having me. I had a blast. You can feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or find me on GitHub at Kelly Rudder.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. Have a question or a suggestion for the show? Visit us in the MongoDB community forums at community.mongodb.com.